I was the scientist behind a chemistry lab. Allow me to be precise about what that involved. A university handed me a laboratory and said, discover something. No guidance, no timeline, only instruments and quiet. 2 years of vacancy. The scientist before me disappeared without submitting a single closing document. No one pursued the question. 17 unnamed bottles in the rear shelf. Arranged by height, that was the only system someone had left behind. I mixed them without forming a theory first, just raw curiosity, which is the single most reckless condition a chemist can operate in. Second week. The thermometer readings became unreliable. What was happening in those flasks contradicted every published reference I had. Wrong color, wrong odor, every observable property was incorrect. I continued anyway, because an anomaly is still data. Fourth week. White crystals formed without being prompted. Identical in structure across every sample. I didn't move from the microscope for 60 minutes. 99.6% purity. That's not a number you stumble into. That's a number that was looking to be found. No results in any database. Not one match. The compound I was looking at had no documented existence anywhere in science. At 2 in the morning, I completed the toxicology assessment alone. The results came in. I held the printout and stayed completely still. A single gram passed the line. That slim difference separated therapeutic effect from permanent cardiac arrest. The lethal dose went into the journal in ink. I shut the cover, then opened it again, read it twice more. It was still the same figure. In 11 years of working with chemistry, I had never come across anything this precisely lethal, and I hadn't been trying to make it. The decision was to end it. I documented that choice, secured the samples in the case, placed it in the rear cabinet, and turned the lock. 4 days. That's how long my decision held. On morning 5, the phone rang, and everything I'd resolved dissolved completely. The caller used the compound's exact name, described the synthesis sequence precisely, information that existed in a single locked journal in a single room. They described my daughter's seat in the classroom, named her teacher. No stranger should have known those things. The surveillance had been running longer than I had. They'd been watching the lab, the family, and everything between before I ever began. That evening, no wife, my son unreachable by phone. I contacted the school. She had departed at her usual hour, nothing more. Midnight brought the second call. My wife's voice. 3 seconds, then cut. 3 seconds communicated everything I needed to understand. Simple instructions. Go back to the lab, resume the synthesis, increase output by 10. No questions, no communication with anyone. The case I'd sealed 4 days earlier. I unlatched it, looked at the contents, pulled on my gloves, and resumed. Starting that morning, 2 figures stationed themselves outside the lab daily. Not university personnel, not bothering with a cover story. The following morning, the lab was transformed. Industrial refrigeration, a centrifuge that represented 3 years of my pay. Weekly calls, 30 seconds each, the same voice reading the same words. Confirmation of life, and then disconnection. Each morning, the same photograph of my family was on the bench. No one referenced it, no one accounted for it. It was simply there. The chemistry obeyed the math with precision. Every batch tripled the last. The process stopped feeling like science and started feeling like assembly. 9th week. A second notebook began. Not to document chemistry, to document them. Weights, names, faces. Each person who came through that door got cataloged. Face, routine, chain of command, phone patterns. In 3 months, the boss appeared once. 40 seconds in the doorway. Eyes on me. Not a word. Gone. 4th month. I began researching territory outside my field. Industrial failures, detonation mechanics. The lens of a chemist. The most useful chemistry texts are the ones left untouched for decades in the back of university stacks. That's where the raw material lives. The equations for detonation differ from synthesis equations. The underlying principle does not. Precision, control, and 1 gram placed incorrectly. Every supply I listed, they procured. Chemistry was outside their knowledge. What they understood was that output could not stop. Certain entries on the list I marked in pencil. Not for priority, for removability. Shelf for most of it, the drawer under the bench for the rest. Every box looks the same from a doorway. Vials aren't what they count. Initial test, smallest viable quantity. 8% deviation from the calculation. that tolerance was acceptable. I hadn't set foot in that building, but I had provided enough descriptions to the guards to reconstruct the layout entirely from recall. At some point, the deliberation ends and the preparation begins. I can't identify the precise moment, but the transition was real. Test 2. Increased volume. Impact mark on the metal precisely at the predicted location. 2% variance. Within parameters. 5 months in, I asked for face-to-face access to leadership, positioned as a production briefing requiring senior sign-off. The family's presence at the meeting site was confirmed, offered as a goodwill gesture in response to production results above target. Home, not the lab. The same hands performing the same movements with the same care. The objective alone had changed. The device sat inside the report binder. Weight verified 3 times against the reference. Same scale from the beginning. Same read. Meeting morning. I read the first journal cover to cover. Every entry, every error, every juncture where stopping was possible, and I didn't. 3 kilometers out. Private property. 3-story structure. I'd analyzed the layout from available photographs over 2 weeks. Entry search. Professional. Complete. They found the binder and a pen. From that point, nothing else was in the room for them. Side room, off the corridor. 2 seconds through the open doorway. Alive. Unharmed. I confirmed what I needed and continued. I counted from the threshold before entering. 14. The boss occupied the head of the table, with arms crossed. The binder went down at the table's center. I told final pages outlined a 5-year growth strategy. Then I go to my family, aware it might be the last time. She looked at me the way she did before any of this began. 3 seconds of that. I held the look and stored every part of it. Floor, behind the cabinet, hands over ears. Stay down until I return. No one else. Those were the instructions. Watch check in the corridor. 40 seconds left. I stood in the empty hallway and counted each one. Moving toward the meeting room. 30, 25, 20. Pace steady, expression unchanged. At the door, voices inside, already turning pages through the binder. I allowed 2 more seconds, then I pushed it open. That explosion closed a chapter of thousands of overdose deaths, of systematic intimidation and torture, and of everything I had endured.